marketing, social networking opportunities, and it's been interesting at The Economist over the past year to see how our life has changed. I think the first time I was aware really of the power of viral marketing was shortly after Lehman Brothers went bust, when people kept sending me what appeared to be an Economist cover. I don't know how many of you saw it, and please excuse the language, but it just had a black cover with the words in big white capital letters, "Oh fuck," with 3 exclamation marks on. And it seemed like people, I'm still not convinced that it wasn't actually produced from deep within The Economist and released as a viral marketing campaign, but people really believed it didn't come from us, and were slightly disappointed when they discovered that The Economist hadn't in fact put out such an appropriate message at that time on our cover. And I find that I'm now spending a lot of my time as a journalist making video and all sorts of audio, as well as Twittering. My Twitter name is @MattBish, MattBish, if anyone is interested. Let me introduce my panel, which is great. We started with Terry Davenport, who is Senior Vice President Global Marketing and Brand Strategy at Starbucks. And then we have Barbara Hagan, who's Senior Director of Brand Marketing at Best Buy, and last but by no means least, David Steele, who is Senior Vice President Corporate Strategy and Marketing at Samsung Electronics North America. Thank you all. So I'm just going to start by asking you to really talk about what you're doing in the social networking, social media front. And I'll start with you, Terry.
Well, it's funny. First of all, my teenage daughter, I think it's hilarious. Watching some of the presentations from this morning, she thinks I'm a technological Neanderthal. The time it takes me to text off a little one-sentence question to her, she comes back with 2 paragraphs with emoticons in it, an attachment of a picture she just took of our dog Otis, and a YouTube link to the car she wants next year when she turns 16. And much like myself, I think probably 3 years ago, Starbucks they needed a social media strategy.
Well, that's interesting. So actually, because what you're doing by saying that is reminding me that I'm supposed to ask everyone here a couple of polling questions. So if I can interrupt your comments, I will do that. And then the first question actually is, are you utilising Twitter in your marketing efforts? So can everyone, I guess we're doing this by texting in to 78464. And if you are using Twitter in your marketing efforts, the text is 6 yes, and if you're not, 6 no. So about 70% yes, 30% no. The second question is, when do you expect digital ad spending to become the largest category in the US? A is 2011, B is 2015, C is 2020, and D is never. So again, 78464, 2011 if it's, well, it's the year in question. 2015 for 2015, 2020 for 2020, and never for never. So we have a little time. It's going to change. Thank you. So for those, quickly before we go into the descriptions of what you're doing, I mean, what are your answers to those two questions? And do those answers surprise you, Derek?
Yes, first, definitely. And it surprises me a little bit, I think, mainly because it's spending versus activity. You know, a lot of the things in the digital space are fairly efficient still. And so just in terms of absolute dollars, those answers to the question.
I'll add on to that. I think for us, we look to build platforms in the social space, and so once you kind of build the platform, the thinking is there that the spending actually becomes not as great because you can leverage the platform for multiple.
I'll ask you actually to talk in more detail, but that's one of the quick answers.
Yeah.
Yes on the first question?
So yeah, oh yeah, definitely yes. But I think in terms of spending, not necessarily going to be the largest rate.
Okay.
Yes on the first, and the second probably 2015, 2020, somewhere around there.
Okay. Great, well back to you, Terry. You were tell us a bit about Starbucks and how it's evolved, what its strategy is.
You know, we've really gone from nowhere, like a lot of brands and companies, to being fortunate enough to be viewed as one of the brands that kind of get it in this space, and one of the leaders in a lot of aspects of it. And as we look back on how quickly that's happened, it's really because of two things. One is we are just blessed with a highly engaged customer base. And then the second reason we've been able to move so quickly on it is frankly necessity in terms of getting our stories into the marketplace in a very cost-effective way. On the first one, on the engaged customer base, a lot of that just goes back to the very core of what Starbucks is, deep down in its DNA, and that's a coffee house. And a coffee house has always been a place of community and conversations, and a place in the neighborhood where people can get together and talk about things and meet new friends. And the ways the Starbucks brand kind of evolved over time started in those roots. And it's not like we just launched the brand one day with a big multimedia campaign. We literally built the brand one store at a time, one neighborhood at a time, one cup of coffee, one conversation between our baristas and our customers at a time. So there's a very social part of our brand that's very natural. It was actually our first kind of toe in the water. We talked about some of the early experiments. It surprised us. It was about 2 years ago. We launched MyStarbucksIdea.com. We thought it was a great platform that we'd seen to get ideas right from our customers. And we did it first because it was such a natural, because it was happening all across the company. I know myself can't get on a plane and travel to New York or come to an event like this without having 2 or 3 people come up to you and say, "Oh, you work for Starbucks, right? I got a great idea for you. Have you ever thought about this? Or are you doing that? Or let me tell you how I feel about that." So we just put some technology behind that in MyStarbucksIdea.com. We literally flipped the switch at our shareholders meeting 2 years ago. We got thousands of ideas within 48 hours. In fact, we got more ideas the first week than the brand that we copied got in their first year. Now we've got 77,000 customer-generated ideas. We have subject matter experts embedded in each of those discussions and replying in real time to customers. We've acted on 50 ideas that are actually in our stores already. So it surprised us. That was a little experiment, and it just took off, and it showed us and taught us something about our customer base. And then the second thing I mentioned was necessity. I guess if necessity is the mother of invention, we don't have and never have spent hundreds of millions of dollars in traditional TV commercial type marketing plans. But in this macroeconomic environment where our customers are, and we're facing increased competition in the coffee space, we had to find an efficient way to participate in those conversations and get our stories out. We were talking backstage about our Via launch. I don't know if everybody has seen the new breakthrough instant coffee we launched over the last couple of weeks, but from that first little experiment with My Starbucks Idea, we call them channels, or platforms, and we turned all of those onto the Via launch. So we have almost 500,000 people that follow us on Twitter. We're the #1 brand on Facebook, just past Coca-Cola a couple of weeks ago. Over 4.5 million fans, getting close to 5 million fans. We have 2.5 million people who are in our My Starbucks Rewards loyalty program. We can talk right to them through their email address. And for the via lunch, we actually did sprinkle little traditional TV commercials on top of it. But the interesting thing, and the very Starbucks thing, is all of that, all those channels, the message is what was most interesting. It wasn't about the product. It wasn't, here's this new product, we think you should buy it. Let us tell you about it. We actually advertised the taste challenge. We took all those messages and invited customers to come and participate in something with us. And I think that's one of the things that we found works best for us in the social media space. It's the we. It's the engaging in our customers in something that they and us can do together. And it's uniquely Starbucks because we have those stores with those passionate partners. And so we drove people into the stores to take the taste challenge. I think we had 8 million people take the taste challenge over a 5-day period. And again, it's because the very core of Starbucks, between our partners, our third place experience, our coffee, and our customers, it kind of is the early social network just without the technology.
Okay, Best Buy.
Sure, I'd say Best Buy was very much in our infancy in terms of social media. I think we've made a lot of progress in the last year, and it's kind of great to be sitting and sit here because we've actually looked to Starbucks as inspiration for a lot of what we've done. I think, in terms of our strategy, one of the key things that really got it off the ground is senior leadership, right? I mean, very judge-mature. There are many of you here who follow him and are aware of his kind of presence in the space. And I think we really kind of need that leadership to really make your strategy be able to be executable, to make it stick. And then for us, it was a little bit of necessity as well, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it's also just kind of who our brand is. Right? We're a brand that sells consumer electronic products, and consumers are using these products to connect with their friends and their families in new and different ways, and we kind of have to be there for them in that space. And the other thing that we have is our associates, so about 150,000 or so employees who are kind of right in the sweet spot in terms of age and demographics of social media, who are using this day in and day out. And so it's almost like it was there for the taking, right, for us to help work with them to build what this should be for our brands and allow them in as part of this experiment. A little bit about the necessity piece of it is, we rely a lot on traditional media historically, right? Whether it's advertising on TV, but probably something you guys are all very familiar with is the Sunday circular. We all know where newspapers are going, and so there was a need for us to kind of say, how do we reinvent this in a way that's relevant to consumers? How do we connect with them in a way that's meaningful, and actually show it in a way where they are, and not necessarily wait for them to come to us. So that's kind of been our kind of journey on social media.
So what are the 2 or 3 initiatives you've really highlighted?
Yeah, so the one most recently is our 12 Force initiative, which we launched just this past July. And basically it's using Twitter as a place for consumers to go when they have a question about anything related to consumer electronics. We have engaged our sales associates, whether they're insurance in our stores or our Geek Squad agents, to kind of sign up and be a part of this 12 Force. And customers can go to Twitter and ask a question. If they may have about a product that they bought from Best Buy, maybe just technology, the issue that they're having in general, and we're a resource for them to help solve that problem that they're having. So it's kind of the wisdom of the crowds where we've got, so that we have about 2,000 employees on the 12 Force, and we to date in just in 2 months or 3 months, we've answered about 9,000 customer questions. So we see a level of engagement with customers that we didn't have before, right? They don't have to come to a store to ask the questions. We're available to them no matter where they are. So that's probably our most recent foray. Another one that we did, kind of building off of the success of MyStarbucks.com, is IdeaS. And in exchange for employees and for our customers to actually go and submit ideas that they have for our business. We have reads for our vendor partners' businesses. And how do we just collectively work together to build those ideas and hear what customers are saying, have them be a part of the conversation instead of us telling them what we think they do.
Now, David, I guess we've got 2 retailers here. You're actually making consumer products, but you're not actually selling them directly. How does this revolution in communication affect Samsung?
Actually, so it was interesting hearing if you work for Starbucks, people come up to you and want to talk about coffee. If you work for Samsung, people come up to you and say, can I get a good deal on a TV? So, different reaction. No, but as you said, we're not selling directly, but it's still very important for us to build that relationship with our consumers. And I think if we look back a few years, we were looking at social media largely as a sort of checkbox. Have you done Facebook? Yes. Even still, I think with some of the Twitter efforts, you on Twitter? Yes, checkbox. And I think we've really gone back to looking at some of the fundamentals that Jerry was talking about. This is all about fundamental marketing, which is where are consumers, and we need to be there as a company, talking to them and increasingly listening to them. So now it's not just about broadcast communications to consumers, it's about being in their discussions with each other and also listening to them. So when we think about social media, really two things come to mind. One is as a branding avenue. So how we get out there, we listen to consumers. A lot of times they're talking about our products. So for example, for our Blu-ray product, many of which we sell through Best Buy, a lot of Twitter posting was going out there saying how much consumers appreciated the Netflix service built into their Blu-ray. That meant we were able to take that information very quickly, put it into our roadmap for next year's planning, as well as into our marketing for the fall, really talk much more to that. So it's a tremendous way of listening to what consumers are saying. Also on branding, we used viral marketing to get out there. We did a very catchy viral video around our new LED TV launch this year. So many of you will have seen these sheep running around a hillside with LED lights on them. 10 million hits already on that. So viral can be important to get the word out. But the second reason why it's important to us, and I think something that as a general audience we shouldn't forget, is the importance of devices. So we still think often of social media as being a PC phenomenon or a computing phenomenon. But Samsung is the #1 TV seller in the US. We'll sell 6 million TVs here this year. The #1 seller of mobile phones, 40 million mobile phones will sell in the US this year. So more than 1 a second is being sold. And many of those are being used to access social networking. I recently gave a presentation at Berkeley, and I asked the audience, how many of you use social networking? And they all thought I was an idiot, right? What kind of question is that? Then I asked, how many of you have posted since I started my presentation? And about 10% of the hands went up. So they'd already been posting, who's this joker on a boring presentation, on their mobile social networking sites. So the devices are very important. TVs are becoming internet connected. So even when people are watching TV, they'll be accessing social networking. People are multitasking. TV in the background with a network that they're working on. So we also see that device side of things that is such a key enabler of how social networking is spreading. So branding as well as the device proliferation.
And when did you really start pushing on this?
I would say just really in the last 12 to 18 months that we saw such rapid uptick, and we saw also a bit more sophistication in how to go to market. Again, before that, a lot of it had been just a checkbox of, are we really doing this? But I think now we're beginning to understand much better how to mediate interactions between customers. And we're also committing more resources internally. I think that's another big challenge for a marketing organization, putting more resources into this area so that you can respond. If someone's posting in 140 words, it means this is very quick, this is very urgent, they need a reply similarly, or they need some answer. And if they can't get the answer from other users, they want the answer from the company. So as an organization, we have to put resources into this.
Now, Terry, I don't know whether you would agree with this characterization of Starbucks, but there was a sense that I certainly had that a large part of the company's problems over the last, really came to a head a couple of years ago, were due to a sense of losing some of that customer relationship and loyalty. It became just the same old. There wasn't that intimacy that maybe was there in the early days. How much has this work, on social networking actually helped to be part of your turnaround strategy, which seems to be starting
that observation is fair. I think in hindsight, we were one of the bellwether brands going into the economic downturn, and we hope to your point we're one of the bellwether brands coming out. But a lot of it was self-inflicted, and some of it came down to rapid growth. There were a couple of years there where we were opening 1,000 stores a year, and at that pace to establish a great store in the neighborhood with a great store manager and a great crew of baristas, and have them all deliver that Starbucks experience the way our older established stores did. I'm not sure anybody's that good. So we, as everybody knows, Howard came back to the organization. We slowed down growth. We actually closed a lot of underperforming stores, and that was very difficult. We got lots and lots of letters from customers in those neighborhoods that really mourned the loss of their neighborhood gathering place. So in a way, social networks became a way for us to get our stories out there in a very targeted and cost-effective way. There were already conversations, lots of conversations, happening without us participating, to your point. And so, for example, there was a huge Facebook site on My Frappuccino. And this is just people who love Frappuccino, love to talk about how they like their Frappuccino and how they get it customized at their Starbucks. And that was before we even had a Facebook page of our own. So by just being a lot more aware of where customers were participating and having conversations about our brand, even if they were saying bad things, even if they were saying Starbucks is off their A game, Starbucks isn't as good as they used to be, why is Starbucks closing stores? If you're not in those conversations, people actually assume the worst. So we had to find our way, and some of it was actually organizational, putting people in new jobs and new job descriptions to participate in those conversations in just a totally honest and transparent way.
It's interesting. We had we found out there was a meetup.com economist readers group in New York, and our publisher of economist.com brought them in a couple of years ago for a meeting. It was just fascinating to get a completely different perspective from readers. I guess they formed that group spontaneously. How are you finding, Robert? You talk about the customer, getting to know the customer better. How has your view of the customer changed and what they want changed as a result of this more two-way reaction? Is it really forcing, and you feel in some sense you're starting to lose control of the brand? Is that a worry?
So it's a great question. I think it's a question that as anyone begins kind of the foray into social media, you have to kind of think about that, right? It's a little bit different, right? And also we haven't used before in terms of like letting go of control from a marketing perspective and a brand perspective. For us, we've been operating under some guiding principles of transparency, and because the reality is knowledge is almost a commodity, right? Because the internet allows you to just know a lot more than you used to know, and if you try to keep things covered or hidden, customers are going to find it anyway. So why not have the right objective, the right kind of perspective, and approach it with transparency in mind? One of the guiding principles that we operate under, which kind of goes on the point that Terry mentioned around allowing your customers to complain. Robert Stevens, who's the founder of Geek Squad, who works at Best Buy, his mantra is we should make it as easy as we possibly can for our customers to complain. We should not have to have them come into the store or wait online for an 800 number. They should be able to complain wherever possible, right? Whether it's through Pub Force or through a website or online or Bear's blog or whatever, because it's only then that our relationship with that customer will actually change. We will really know what's on their minds, and then be able to fix it and in the end advance our brand. So it's a little scary at first to kind of open up and allow that to happen and lose a little bit of control of the brands, but in the end, we feel like the benefit will be that we both of us, both the customer and for our brand.
So are those complaints in a public forum? Or are they?
Absolutely. Go to our Facebook page. You'll see people who go to our Facebook page and they'll complain, right? And we're not there to take those posts off. Right? We're there to have a conversation and engage and really understand what is the root cause. How do we fix it? How do we become a better partner in this relationship that we have with our customers?
We were very nervous about that when we started. In fact, Howard himself was concerned that for a brand that is very tightly controlled in the way that our look went to market. We do all our store designs ourselves. We have an in-house art studio. We do all our graphics ourselves. And then just to let go of so much of the conversation. And the thing that really got Howard to embrace it is he has always done this thing that he calls open forums. He'll go to a market, he'll just go into stores and invite partners and customers just in a live impromptu setting to ask them any question they want and give them feedback. And technology is just a way to do that in a slightly different way. In some ways it's just as dangerous. You don't know what question you're going to get, you don't know what complaint you're going to get, but you deal with it as honestly as you can. And whether it's in person or over the internet or over Twitter, it's kind of the same.
It's interesting when you both come from firms that have had chief executives, in your case still has, who are very much like that open engagement. Do you think this is actually something that is going to change the kind of people who become chief executives in the future? They have to be people who are much more into engaging with their customers?
I think so. I think it's you might not know the details of how the technology works, but I do think you have to be sensitive to how to use it and how it's going to be used kind of to you if you're not a part of it.
David, one question for you and then I'll throw it open to the audience. You talked about not being sure whether it's 2015 or 2020 when the spending on digital advertising outweighs the traditional advertising. And how do you actually evaluate, the spend on this area and reach decisions about how much to increase it and rate?
So that's a great question. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for marketers in this area, because the marketing tools and techniques have moved so quickly that really the metrics and measurement are not yet caught up with them. So I think that is a big challenge. That's why I would characterize a lot of what we're doing, just as you heard, it's about experimentation, it's about learning, it's looking for things that work. And increasingly it's about customer satisfaction and engagement, which goes way beyond traditional marketing metrics of just reach. This is now about how do you get advocates among your consumers, how do you build loyalty. And so much of it is about a positive experience. So what we heard about a few minutes ago about people complaining, often what we found when people are complaining or frustrated about something, they're actually extremely passionate about our products and our brand. And that's an expression of it. So we shouldn't mistake that for a negative view of the brand. So those areas of engagement with consumers, I think traditional marketing metrics really struggle to show ROI. So what we're also looking to bring in now is our customer service function, because we can actually save a lot in our customer service operation, because guess what? Consumers are answering each other's questions now. They don't need to come to us and ask questions, because there are lots of lead users out there who can answer each other's. So I think we need a new paradigm of measurement, just as the marketing tools are evolving.
So at the moment, we're always doing just more than last year we spent on it, but at some point, presumably you're going to have to take some hard budgeting decisions on, where do you put your...
It's budgeting, but also, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's about internal resources. And frankly, for us, I'm not sure for the others, but for us, one of the biggest challenges is talent in this area. There's a very limited group of people still. So anyone who's looking for a position in social media, come let me know. This is an area that's hungry for talent, for people who have some ideas, who are creative, and so on. And I'm not talking so much about agency capabilities, but internal capabilities. I think that's where we see more of an investment rather than just straight dollars. Because, dollar-wise, it's efficient.
And how do you, Barbara, how do you decide how much money to put into this space?
So we're actually going through a budgeting process right now, and it's a challenge that we're dealing with, because there's the tried and true, where you get the return on things you've done for years, and then on the other side we have this new space, and the metrics are still kind of being defined, and how do you evaluate what success looks like, both from the dollar investment perspective as well as people investment. We actually have a similar challenge in terms of finding people of expertise and then being able to manage our resources within our limited headcount, right? To make sure we have the bandwidth in place to advance where we want to go. So it's literally we're having these conversations just now. Not only for the next year. I think the next year is an easy one. Actually, when we think about our 5-year plan, what does that look like, right? And we had that question earlier around what the digital ads going to look like 2014. Gosh, how do you do your 5-year plan? I mean, it's just so unclear as to really what that landscape is going to look like.
What about this?
We're lucky because kind of a weird way, we're not burdened by history of having to take money away from TV commercials or away from circulars and hope that this new thing works, because we just haven't done that stuff. So for us, it was finding efficient ways to build platforms. I mean, a great example is this past summer we launched our new pastry program, which was all natural pastries now, no artificial colors, etc. And we had free pastry day. And our transactions went up 10% that day. We gave away 1.7 million free samples of our pastry. And we didn't spend a dime in traditional media to get that word out. And that, again, kind of surprised everybody at the power of these channels or platforms that we've been building, in a way become very efficient from a working media dollars kind of measure. But it does mean you have to invest in the organization and the people to do that. And we're just really lucky. We have a terrific, small but mighty, highly talented digital team that's just been on the forefront of a lot of these things, and they've just done a great job for us.
Now, time for some questions from the audience. The gentleman here. Have we got microphones coming around, or is that here? If you could just say who you are and who you're with.
Brad Button, I'm with a strategic consultancy called Genesis. The question is, they say now that the new advertising is peer-to-peer reviewing, and the best measure of that seems to be the Net Promoter Score. So do your companies use the Net Promoter Score?
We have something similar to it, where we have an idea of our core. We look at our core customers organized into a couple different frequency buckets. We look at how they're feeling about some key brand measures and willingness to tell a friend, so to speak, some of those Net Promoter type measures.
Similar for us, it depends on the bucket of customer that we're looking at, but we do use the Net Promoter Score as a measure for us.
Yep.
Sorry, can you say that down? Actually, can you wait for the mic? We weren't able to hear what you said.
For us, not literally.
So can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, the question was, do you use your own metrics, not the NPS? Is that the answer?
Yeah, we've customized ours. Very, very simple.
Okay, can someone show me the first text question that we've had come in? And meanwhile, does anyone else want to ask? Yeah, there's someone right at the back there. Yeah, your question, yeah.
Simon Applebaum again from Tomorrow Will Be Televised at blogtalkradio.com. David, your company and other TV set makers have come out this summer with sets that allow interactive TV capability, including the ability to put Twitter on the television set. And since that's happened, Fios, which is Verizon's cable overbuild, has gone another step further by allowing Facebook on the television set. How big a phenomenon do you think, based on what's happened with your sets, with Fios, with AT&T Uverse, all sorts of other developments since the summer, how big a phenomenon do you think social media will be on the television set, and how will it compare to social media on the computer and social media in mobile?
Great question. You know, we see this area evolving very rapidly. I mean, this is to use a sad, overused name, this is what convergence is really supposed to be all about. So delivering an internet experience on a home entertainment product with TV. We think it's going to be very significant because we see so many consumers multitasking already. So, as I said before, TV is playing in the background, and then they're mainly focused on their laptop. But being able to deliver internet content onto the TV is going to be very significant. Social media, obviously, a part of that. we've got to still work on things about like what the text entry should be, so we haven't yet put a keyboard for our TVs. So we're still thinking that through. But you know, I used to joke with my colleagues about what's the future of the TV. And they would say, well, it's probably a screen, it's probably a hard disk to store content, probably a keyboard so you can enter text, it's probably a mouse so you can manipulate things. And then it's like, hey, congratulations, we've reinvented the PC, what, 40 years too late. So that's just a sign of how things are evolving down that path. So I think it'll be very significant going forward, but we're at an early stage still.
Well,
Yeah, if we look at it in terms of just the 3 screens, and wherever customers are, they're going to have a screen with them. And so what we're doing is actually enabling our presence to be where customers are. So if you're at home on your computer, you can, if you want to order online, you can. We've actually just enabled our mobile platform to be able to order and get all the information that you normally could through your cell phone. And I would anticipate that as the internet integrated TVs come to market, that will just be another screen that will allow customers to do what they want to do when they're in front of that screen. So it's just different size screens that follow customers where they are, and I think the expectation is going to be that they can do whatever they want to do across all 3 screens. That the dividers, if you will, on how we look at the screens right now are going to fade away.
Same for you, Joe?
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot more about the technology than I think that a screen is a screen is a screen, does seem to be the way that eventually want everything to be. And we just launched our first iPhone apps a couple weeks ago, and one of them is now number 5 overall for free apps, number 1 in the lifestyle section. What's interesting is it's not some added piece of Starbucks content or game. It's something as simple as let us help you build your drink so you can order correctly. Let us show you where all the Starbucks are based on where you are in the neighborhood. And if you want to learn something about our holding coffees, here's all the ones we have and the stories behind it. And it's just been phenomenally successful.
Yeah, we've got a text question, which I guess requires all of you to do some lateral thinking. I mean, you obviously are looking at this from a B2C perspective. Where do you see the opportunity for B2B communication? David?
So, yeah, I would say we're definitely behind B2C in terms of exploring this. We're really at early stages now in talking to some of our customers about how they would like to see social media integrated. But going back to the B2C experience, I think customer service is such a huge opportunity here. Because for B2B sales, you want to provide a very high level of support to your business customer, corporate customer. If there are sites out there which are taking care of that, where lead users are talking to each other, and we're moderating that, that's an entirely new style of work for customer service, and one which potentially can be much more cost effective. So I think that's where I would see social media really beginning in B2B. It's less about the messaging, and it's more about providing that great service and satisfaction for corporate customers.
I guess when you think about a company like FedEx that allowed you to suddenly track where your package was, and that transformed the efficiency of the supply chain. So presumably there are lots of other opportunities like that. Do you have any thoughts on if you were advising B2B on what they should be doing?
I do think a lot of it depends on the size of the B on either side of that, small business or large. I think not knowing that, the answer to that question, the key would be, so who's the customer, which goes to B's customer, and better understand how they want to interact with you in a way that's helpful to them. And I think it's never a bad place to start, which is how do you make what they're trying to get done easier by participating with them in something that uses the technology.
Do we have another question from the audience? Actually, a lady here. Can you say who you are first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Billy Howard from Watershed.
Right.
Okay. So you guys have talked a lot, obviously, about the social media world and how marketing is being reinvented in the new environment. But I wonder, is there a tipping point, in your opinion, if you take your eye off innovating around traditional marketing and focus too much in social media, what the cost of that might be, and how do you best handle that?
Sorry?
Again, I think it's easy answer from the Starbucks trading off what we used to do and moving dollars into new things, and did we move too much or not. It's more about using the new technologies, and we think, just as Flickr came from nowhere and it grew almost day by day, there's going to be the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and that we just have to be aware of those and willing to experiment a little in the early stages, and then just learn it and go where it lets us go. So for us, it's not so much about being wary of making too many trade-offs from traditional spending models.
For us, it's about understanding what the role of the different channels can play. And right now, obviously, social media is growing. It doesn't have the critical mass that you can get through the broad reach vehicles. So, we're not going to just move completely away from TV all the way to social, because we need those broad reach vehicles to serve a purpose. A case in point is when we launched 12 Forest, we actually launched it with TV spot. It was a TV spot, that's probably a typical TV spot. Didn't actually verbally mention 12 Forest, but on the bottom was the URL, twitter.com/12 Forest. And that is actually how people started to know about 12 Forest, right? And when they went to that page, there was the landing page, they could get information about it and sign up. So we really want to look at our channels of conversation as connected points with our customers and use each one for the best benefit that it can serve.
So as Brenda said, they need to be woven together. And TV, print media, they have their role for reach and for getting a message out there, but then engagement, advocacy, those kind of characteristics will look much more to, let's say, social media to provide those. So I'm not sure that I would say a tipping point so much as just changing the mix, changing the way we think about communicating and engaging with consumers.
Okay, we had a question right at the back there. Sorry, it's not working.
Hello, Lisa, PBS.
Can you put it closer to your mouth?
One of the ways in which we're wrestling with these issues is figuring out how to staff our departments that manage social media, because obviously it has to be much more one-on-one relationship. I'd be very interested in hearing how you push that challenge.
Presumably you've all been hiring lots of 18-year-olds to run this operation, but Barbara.
Yeah, we've actually been building our, what we call our interactive media, emerging media group, from both outside and inside the company. So a little bit external and internal. The expertise that David spoke about earlier is definitely something you have to go search out. Right? It's not just kind of sitting there. But we also believe that we can't build two completely siloed organizations. That whole convergence that we're all here talking about is going to be happening. And so both sides have to be very knowledgeable and conversant in how they interact together. So while we hired in some experts on the social media side, we have taken people with just kind of real strong branding and strategy and marketing skills and kind of created a bridge. We put some in that team and some in the more the analog side, if you will, to make sure that we're connected, that we're connecting the dots, that we don't build one in a silo from the other.
Sure.
We did something similar in addition to hiring some young folks who know the technology because they live it every day. But just last year, for the first time, as we saw this emerging media becoming so much, almost a key component of our go-to-market strategy, not a fringe part of it, we integrated into one team, kind of under the heading of brand stories and brand content. So whether the story goes to TV or Twitter or Facebook, or in fact uses all of those in some way that works in concert to each other, it's all in one group instead of in different groups across the organization.
David?
Yeah, since so many consumers posting about our products are very tech savvy, they're interested in new products, gadgets, and so on. Those are the people we have working there to actually communicate with them, because they need that credibility, they need that product knowledge. So yes, definitely we're sourcing those folks to work in our social media area.
So I'm thinking about if you look at Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, there's a lot of debate about how do you actually monetize all this vast amount of information that is being generated without upsetting the delicate relationship with the user. And there's a sense of MySpace may have overdone the commercial element. Facebook's had some backlash from its members when it tried to introduce some of the more commercial aspects onto the site. I'm not sure what Twitter is doing. I mean, is it your sense that people are finding out ways to now allow you as companies to really mine that data in a way that's acceptable to the user? Terry?
I do think you need to be careful. I mean, we have had a lot of very conscious discussions, even though we've built out all these channels and platforms where we could take lots and lots of different messages, some more commercial and self-serving than others, right to our core customers. We're very careful about overdoing that to the point where you lose their trust that it's a two-way communication in an involved relationship and not just the receivers of a lot of messages. Especially our registered card members, where we've got email addresses. It would be very easy to, not just inundate them with lots of messages, but we have lots of people who come to Starbucks and would like to talk to our customers, even through our stores or through our channels. We're very protective of that part.
Are you actually able to learn something from Twitter, or is that just noise?
No, I think there's a lot to learn there. Interesting story. In September, we brought back, like we do every fall, or at least we have for the last 6 years, we brought back pumpkin spice lattes. It's a favorite fall drink for a lot of people. In the last 4 or 5 years, it's kind of done a little less, a little less, a little less every year. Suddenly, we launched it this year, and within 3 days, we had the highest numbers we've ever had on this beverage. And Howard Schultz actually came down to the gang and said, "What's going on? Did we advertise it?" And we didn't. But what we did is we put it out on our Facebook page and said, "Hey, all of you who love pumpkin spice latte, it's back." And just like that, we had hundreds of pictures posted on the site of people with their pumpkin spice latte and big smiling.
Gentleman right in front on this row.
Hi, my name is Nabil. I'm a graduate student at MIT. And my question about sort of how you engage your consumers. So there seems to be different levels of engagement. I guess on the base level, you can be in the conversations that are going on Twitter sites. You can ratchet it up a little bit, as Gary mentioned, in terms of getting your consumers to give you ideas essentially about how to make management decisions. What improvements can you make at Starbucks that would satisfy you. And then there are other companies that are taking that even a step further and are actually getting their consumers to help them make design decisions. Crowdsourcing, for example, design of a new product and a new television. So I'm curious to know a little bit about sort of your experiences in terms of deepening that level of engagement and just your perspective on what some of the trade-offs are.
Thanks. We also have a question at the back row. There's a lady waving here. We'll take this question and one more, and then I'm going to give each panelist a chance to respond.
Hi, just in reference to looking
So
at...
who you are?
Sorry, my name is Suzanne. I'm with the Canadian Consulate. We talked a bit about transparency with the companies, and I'm curious, with social media, as publicly traded companies, is there a conflict with complying with SEC regulations? And you mentioned at Starbucks that you have the CEO go out and speak with the customers and they complain directly. Is there a conflict with him answering sort of off the cuff without knowing what the questions are prior, or is that really not an issue with social media?
Okay, we'll take one text question if there's still one out there as well. Is it going to come up on the wall? Yeah, do you have a plan for responding to a negative viral campaign? Whether you've United out. So who'd like to take
I'll start with the involvement question. Again, it goes back to our DNA, so we feel really lucky that a lot of what we can do is be the place where two people can have their own engagement. So, for example, last year during the holidays, we tied in with Bono's Product Red. And for World AIDS Day, through Facebook, we invited people to RSVP their friends and say, let's meet at Starbucks on Tuesday, World AIDS Day, and a nickel of every beverage that gets sold by Starbucks is going to go to the global fund. So, yes, it is a way for us to burnish our brand in a way that we think is totally appropriate for us. But it's also a way to be a place where customers can come together for themselves to have an experience, and we're just kind of the conduit place to go. We've had a lot of success with things like that that are very much on a high brand strategy level, and not necessarily a product level.
What about the negative viral campaign? Do you know how to deal with that?
Well, I think it's become like politics, where you just have to respond. You cannot sit back and go, oh, wow, where did that come from? That's a bummer. Especially
because you ran into Oxfam a couple of years ago, and I remember there was sort of paper notices sort of in the schools explaining why you were fighting with Oxfam.
Well, and I
seemed very old media.
Yeah, I think the thing that everybody realizes in the space is anything that happens in that space doesn't ever really go away. You can deal with it, it can calm down, and then suddenly someone gets it sent to them for the first time, and they think it's new news, and they send it to 100 friends, and suddenly some old issues that might be 2 or 3 years old that you think are very resolved in an appropriate way suddenly flare up again, even though it's old, literally old news. You got to be careful.
Barbara, would you like to take any of those 3 questions?
Sure. First around involvement, we have been working with some of our vendor partners and our customers to actually build and design products more geared towards what customers are looking for. And I will tell you how we leverage social media to bring those customers in. We're still in the early stages of that. We've done a little bit of reaching out to our existing database of customers to help us, but the laptop PCs, the Nextclass laptops, those are all completely built based upon customer input. And we're doing more of that on future product lines. The other area of involvement I do want to point out is advertising creation. So kind of user-generated content, but actually being able to use the work in a kind of more public
how would you respond to the United ad? Suddenly someone comes up with a geek squad actually wrecked television or
I'm
something
sure we
like
have
that.
plenty of hate stories out there. We do involve our PR department, right? I mean, it's not like we could just, anyone can go out there and, so we do have a lot of traditional and social ads that come into play.
Okay, David, lastly.
Well, taking three questions at once is sort of how I feel about social media. It's just this. So involvement, engagement, absolutely key, and I think that really gets to the heart of the new paradigm that we find ourselves in, where we're no longer marketers just pushing out information and then preparing for the next campaign or something like that, but we really need to think about how we take that input, how we engage with those consumers, how we bring them in and have a meeting with them, so we heard about from the economists, but how do we engage with them, how do we put more resources, because it is very powerful. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have for the business. In terms of disclosure, yes, I think that's important. We've already seen the FTC proposals about blogging, but I think there's going to be more things we need to look at in this new era from a regulatory perspective. So I don't see exactly the conflict with SEC at the moment, but I think it's an area we have to be very conscious of. Then for negative viral campaign, as you just put it, yes, you have to do something about it. I would say try and get to those issues before they become negative viral campaigns. These are often born out of great passion, a great love for that brand. People who don't care about something tend not to be emotional or posting and so on. They care about it, so they like a response. They like to be treated like an engaged member of that brand. So often I think early to prevention is better than cure.
Okay, well, unfortunately our time is up. In closing, I'd just like to ask each of you, do you actually tweet or are you on Facebook? Yes. David?
Yeah.
What's your Twitter name?
Actually, I recommend you don't go there because it's too boring. Go to Facebook, find me on Facebook, and then you can complain that I don't put enough cute pictures of myself up, which is what my friends all complain.
Yeah, I'm Barb Hagen on Twitter and Facebook. Search for Barb Hagen.
Sarah?
I'm not either. It's because the Starbucks sites are just so much more fascinating than my personal life. So all our activities go in there.
Okay, well, thank you very much for a very stimulating conversation. So it's now lunchtime. If you would all move back out to the networking space and